Okay, I've got 6:30, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Conservation Commission for December 12th, 2022 to order. Let's see. And Gage will not be with us tonight. Gina, you want to go ahead and vote, or sit as a voting member for Gage? Pretty lean agenda. We have no public hearings scheduled. We have several new business items. The first one is a standard review of dredge and fill application for New Hampshire Department of Transportation regarding the F.E. Everett Turnpike widening project. This project proposes to widen the roadway from 2 lanes to 3 in each direction, with addition of a northbound and southbound travel lane. The project begins approximately 0.2 miles north of exit 12, Bedford Road overpass interchange, and continues north for approximately 0.9 miles. And you'll see, just for the purposes of clarity, I'm not suggesting we mix up the agenda on here, but this is a standalone agenda item. It's a dredge and fill permit. I have a similar item later on the agenda here because Stephanie really took the lead on this, but really we've seen an influx of the number of this type of permit application. There's 5 different DES permit applications. So I mean, we should review this one singularly to see if we have any concerns, because the deadline is today if we're going to identify any concerns or ask for an extension. The extension will be 40 days. So we should review this singularly, and then really, later on, the reason I added it to the agenda is we should really kind of probably, since we are seeing more and more of these, and it is really an efficient way for something that might be simple, not to suggest that this one is simple, but we should develop a strategy of how we want to deal with these, because there are some very unique and tight timelines, and they're not all the same. There's some shorter ones and some longer ones. So I guess we can start by reviewing this one. I think you probably all got 3 items in your packet, right? One was in the electronic packet?
Oh, electronic, yeah.
Oh. Should have got this, and this is really simple. What it boils down to is it's just each Conservation Commission that was impacted by this phase of that widening got a similar note from DES. It sent to town hall, they signed for it, and they alerted us through through our Conservation Commission email that we have until December 12th today to raise any concerns or ask for any clarifications or those sorts of things. So that's really all that one told you. The other thing that was in the electronic packets, I don't know, hopefully everyone got this, was it was about an 80-page document. I only simply printed the 6 or 7 pages I thought that I took notes on. The third thing that you probably should have gotten electronically, and there is a paper copy of this one over there, but was the stormwater management plan. Pretty comprehensive, and again, this also was like 60 or 70 pages. I only printed the ones I thought were important. But did everyone have a chance to review that? It was pretty thoroughly vetted, as most of these things are. So, and we weren't the only Conservation Commission that got it. Bedford got it. I don't know, Nashua was part of the overall 6-phase project, so they got it. So, and Manchester. So every town along this section of the DW highway widening would have done a similar review. I think usually in the past, did anyone review it that had a concern or identified something in it that was?
They talk about, well, as of November 30th, we now have a new endangered species, federal endangered species that possibly is in that area. And when they did this application, that species was not federally endangered. So I think they need to redo it, basically. But unfortunately, I don't think we get another shot at it. Like if we say we request this or ask this, I don't know if we ever hear from them again. I don't think we get to review it again, but I mean, they're probably already working on this since the federal law changed. But
What was that species? Do you remember?
the northern long-eared bat.
So I did read something about That was, one of them did talk about it.
Oh, it is in here. They
Oh, okay.
discuss it, but because it wasn't federally endangered at the time, there's different procedures that they have to follow.
Okay.
And
I think they specifically identified, or the part that I read was they identified Dumpling Brook as a potential habitat for the northern long-eared bat. And they did sonar testing in August. And how did they word it? I don't know.
right, they didn't think there were any, but
Yeah,
I would think that they would need to do that, or I would want them to do that again closer to
closer to the
the
time.
time, because this isn't going to be happening until like June of 2023, when they're actually, going to be tearing down the trees. And this is 11 acres of tree clearing. So, it says it was completed in summer of 2022. So I would think they would need to do it again in summer of 2023.
Yeah.
So that's,
So that's a good example of feedback, I suppose, that we would, and there's a specific formatting of how it's sent that we would provide.
I mean, it looks like it's around June. It says construction widening earthwork. So I'm guessing that's the clearing of the trees. It says June 2023, which is a nesting season for birds. I mean, we've got squirrels, turtles, birds, that, again, I know we're just advisory, but
Yeah.
I mean, if it was an acre, 11 acres, it's huge.
Do you remember, Cindy, so they specifically mentioned that culvert, that 36-inch culvert? Is that the only area? Or were the trees habitat for that bat also? I don't remember that. I just remember that they
Let's
identified that culvert and even showed a picture of the entrance and
Well, it says under threatened, endangered and species of special concern. It just says the project is within the documented range of the long-eared bat, and then the proposed project is going to take 10.7 acres of tree clearing. So I'm not sure the exact location, or maybe they don't say it, or maybe we wouldn't want to say it anyway.
yeah, I didn't think of that when I read it, because everything else they pinpointed. They found exactly 4 instances or 4 locations where, what is the name of the
Yeah, the plant.
plant?
Yeah. I mean, probably since they didn't find any in summer of 2022, they don't list a specific area,
Yeah,
but it sounds like it could be the whole,
like the birdfoot violet was the plant, and they found 4 specific locations. They even on not on this one, but on this report, they even told us exactly where those 4 were. Told us 2 wouldn't be impacted, 2 would be impacted, and had a mitigation strategy corresponding to each of the 2.
Yep.
But I don't remember seeing that for the bat. I don't know if I.
Well, probably because they didn't identify in their last survey. So they're not saying we definitely have them. My request is that they check again before
Okay.
we start doing this. And especially now that they are federally endangered, they're going to have to do a different procedure than what they originally did. So they'll have to revise this anyway.
All right, I've got that note. So I guess that's something we would just,
That's something,
that's feedback we'd give tonight before midnight.
it's feedback. Also, as this is new to me, the whole wetlands evaluation thing, and I'm looking at documents about how to do it. Stephanie and ComDev might be able to clarify this, but our statutory ability as a conservation commission is to comment on impact on the wetlands jurisdiction, and it has to be limited to what's covered under RSA 482A. which I have not read, and administrative rules, the state administrative rules covering that. If we have concerns, we should definitely submit them where they need to go. But it may turn out that we have more limited jurisdiction than we think. This is something to learn about. So if you hear back from ComDev, let us know, because I
Yeah.
think we all have,
Yeah, I definitely
just
will.
about any of you could know more about this than I do, but
No,
I'm starting
no,
from zero.
And we've, like you said, we've seen more of these in the last year than
And I agree, it's
we have the
significant. When we're-
previous.
When we're talking
that
about,
I've been-
when we're talking about endangered species, that's significant. I don't know if the Conservation Commission is going to be the way to get that across, but definitely mention it.
It's
and we'll
definitely a
see if
question we
that's-
should ask.
And that's how we'll find out
Yeah.
if it's something we can influence.
And we have the contact, so if no one objects, I think I'll go ahead and give that feedback and identify that concern. And I think we're gonna hear, they're probably already thinking about that. And that will be reassuring, so it's worthwhile just to endeavor to do that and see what kind of feedback we
Yeah,
get.
they did mention in here that they anticipated this might happen, but, you know, I think it's just, they're just gonna have to redo the pieces of this application, you know, maybe a different procedure, because now they are federally endangered. But,
Yeah.
and then my other question, I guess, would be since this is permanent mitigation or permanent impact on the wetlands, it looks like they're gonna be paying $100,000. And do we have any projects that we can use that money for? You know, do we want to ask GZA, because they've helped us with these issues in the past to try and come up with projects, but I mean, this is $100,000 that we should be able to use in Merrimack on a project. But we have
Wasn't
to,
some of it directed at the old fish hatchery? Wasn't there some mitigation that was proposed there? It was in one of those, all the email correspondence at the end of one of these?
but just for the Merrimack area? I didn't see that. I
And
just
I'm
saw
not
that
sure what
said-
it was that was happening there.
I saw that for Merrimack, it was like, or this project E, that it said that they met with some, I don't know, the public and maybe the town council and somebody else, not with the conservation, but like in 2016 and 2018, so like a long time ago, and that no projects were presented at that time. So they're just gonna pay it. I think they just put it into like the general fund. But, you know, if this is gonna happen in Merrimack, we should use those funds if possible to do our projects. You know, but I mean, there's specific details and, you know, I don't understand how it all works, but I know GZA's helped us with that, and maybe Gage. Like there was something they prepared for us that I was just kind of looking at before our meeting. I
Oh,
think
the
you
color
set it out.
GZA map, yeah.
Yeah, because it gives like a point system, you know, and projects, but
You talk about land.
Parcels and what value each one had.
yeah,
Some were, adjacent to other existing parcels,
but I think,
somewhere near wellheads, right?
but not parcel like purchasing. I thought this one talks more about projects, or if you were gonna do something, you know, this would be the area you'd want to do it in. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, the GZA map, it has the ranking of all the land parcels. It also identifies several spots for wetland restoration targets, is what they're called. I think on the map there, the purple stars. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah. So I think we should definitely see
Take a look at-
before we look, I
Well,
mean,
Let me ask, I'm sure Tim or someone downstairs knows
yeah.
where those mitigate, because it did call out, I didn't see a number that big, but you said you saw.
100,000.
So this is $100,000 that would go to,
I believe
Goes
will go
to
to us
somewhere, we're just
in
wondering,
Merrimack.
it goes into some mitigation.
If
fund.
we don't use it, then it's gonna go into like a state fund, you know? Because we've tried this before. I don't know if we've ever, since I've been on the commission, if we've ever like taken the money, but I don't think it's ever been this high either. But I know we always try to come up with projects to say, okay, we'll use that because they're impacting, you know, the wetlands here. But see if I can find it in here.
I can certainly dig into that, see if ask those questions.
Yeah, I mean, I could be looking at it wrong, but that's what I saw.
Did anyone else see anything here that jumped out at them as a concern?
The question of the blanding turtles
Mm-hmm.
and the question on page 2 of pretty much the first, it's page 1, page 2 of 7 for the standard dredge and fill wetlands permit application. So I'll take the Blandings turtles first. When Eversource wanted to go in and do some work, Jeff Littleton from Moosewood Ecological had said that the turtles would be nesting as soon as it gets warm, so it's not an exact science, so that could be the middle of April to the beginning of May. And then it's not really safe to be taking things down until probably August, September. So the question is, do we hold them to the same standard? Do we make that recommendation? It's just a question, I'm just bringing it up. My other question is, when Flatley came, we asked them to make sure that they keep any soil, potentially contaminated soil, contaminated with PFAS. We asked them to keep it on site so that we're not sending it off and having it be someone else's problem. On page 2,
Which page 2?
it's on this standard dredge and fill wetlands permit application. It's a group of 7 pages. It's right in the beginning of that 70-page document.
Mm-hmm.
So on page 2 of 7 there, one of the questions says, for dredging projects, is the subject property contaminated? If yes, list contaminant, and no is checked off. So the question is, if it's near Dumpling Brook, and Dumpling Brook is near St. Gobain, wouldn't that be contaminated with PFAS? So I think before they start digging, then they probably want to do some soil samples before they start moving that soil.
Again, good question. I didn't read anything about soil testing. So it's another good question I'll ask them. I assume they must have done some. We recently heard about a parcel in this project, right? The one we talked about last meeting. They had done baseline testing.
I mean, if they've tested and it comes out negative, then
Mm.
it's a moot point.
Yeah.
But because we told Flatley that we wanted the stuff, I'm just
Which
trying to
one?
be consistent.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I'm surprised I didn't read anything about testing in here, soil testing. But those are good points. And I think it's educational at this point because we've just, this one was more comprehensive than any of the ones we've looked at recently. But even as comprehensive it was with 180 pages, we still found a few questions, concerns. So I'll follow up with those and report back what I hear.
Thank you for
Yeah.
doing that, because I know you're going to be up late tonight doing that.
Yeah, I'll do it during
Thank you,
halftime.
Steve.
All right, so moving on, I guess. Next item we had was a request from the Horse Hills Nature Preserve Subcommittee to approve installation of 2 interim signs to point out Amherst Road parking lot and Fields Farm properties.
This came up during the Horse Hill Subcommittee meeting. Fields Farm is getting used. It's not being managed, but it's getting used. And there's some concern about access where people are parking and so forth. What the subcommittee would like to do is have some sign at Horse Hill indicating Fields Farm and a sign at Fields Farm indicating Horse Hill, pointing out that parking is available at Horse Hill. We want to keep people from doing
Parking on Amherst
we
Road.
want to keep people from parking in dangerous areas or areas that aren't ours. These would be signs that Mark Gagnon would, at the subcommittee meeting, said that he could create. This was before Mike sent out mention of other signs, which will come up later. But we are looking into this as a matter of safety. just to try to encourage people to park in established lots. You know, leave your car there, take your bike wherever. And I think with the signs, yes, we're acknowledging that there's use going on, but everybody knows it who lives in the area.
It's
So
interesting.
we don't need the full commission to do it, but we would like to, we would like to get a sense of the commission that this is something to go ahead with. Up or down?
Anyone have thoughts on this?
Uh,
It's an alternative. I'm
So-
surprised we haven't talked
My-
about before.
My first reaction is yes, it's a good idea. My only contrary thought is that if we do that, are we encouraging more use at that property, even though it's not managed yet? But
That's-
people are probably parking on what's that? That farm roads or
Yeah.
something?
That's
And,
something that we discussed. It's like, there's use going on, it's frustrating, we can't get a handle on it, and isn't this going to encourage more? We don't know. What we do know is that right now, the use that's getting done is causing parking that we don't want to see get more complicated. But I understand that concern because we kicked that around too.
Yeah. And would those signs be at, I know there was one trail there that crossed private property. Has that been blocked off? I haven't been there lately.
I don't know. Mark has done a site visit there. Mark Gagnon would have a better idea of that. This would only be, these signs would indicate Amherst Road only, or would be on Amherst Road to try to divert people over to the Horse Hill lot. So we don't have any
Like
plans
Towards the
for
bridge or,
nothing there right now.
yeah, or,
And I
I'm
think
just trying to, like, where would the sign go on Amherst Road?
I don't have a map for it. I should have brought one because the subcommittee knew exactly.
Okay, as long as they have an idea of where the problem is that people who live around there
Yep.
know anyway. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And I think I gave an update on this last meeting, but community development is helping us sort through the deeds and the way those back lots were divided up. There is momentum there. It's not a whole lot of momentum. I mean, it's involved. It obviously involves the deeds and it involves attorneys. So it's going to be a slow process. We're not going to.
Well, that's
We should
something-
caution ourselves about being over optimistic about how soon that's going to.
Well, this is why we're requesting it as an interim measure.
Mm. What do you think?
So,
Yeah, so just leave it up to the Horse Hill Subcommittee on where this sign would go. He's just talking about one sign at each place.
yes,
And the sign that's by Fields Farm, we don't know exactly where that is going yet, or there's like a trail for the.
I did not bring the map, so that's my mistake.
Yeah, okay, I mean, it sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you, because Mark could look at it and go, boink.
Yeah, I trust him. He's a,
Thank you for that.
But I think I think the most popular parking spot for people who go to Fields Farm is down towards the southern end of the farm on Amherst Road. I think there's a sort of a natural side parking lot, kind of, not really a parking lot, but place for a few cars to fit near the trail. So I think it would be sort of down.
Yeah.
Take this out, but down here where Amherst Road is actually written on the Google map.
so like an official town sign?
Well,
or just,
that's it. We wanted to avoid the use of the word official at this point, although I understand that the town may have an interest in that. And if ComDev wants us to provide more information, the subcommittee can get together and do that. We don't want to have to go through a long process.
Get a sign made up.
Yeah,
and
get
route
a sign made up.
Just says parking at.
And be prepared to take it down the instant it's no longer
Needed.
required. But this is as a matter of safety. That's what we're considering.
Well, doesn't look like anyone has any
reservations?
No, do you think more people there's walkers or bike riders?
A lot of bikers,
Bike.
yeah.
Okay, I'm just thinking of what increased traffic would be on that little strip of road. Would it be a lot of people walking or people bicycling?
People parking their pickup trucks and taking their bikes out of the back or taking
Okay.
bikes off the back of their cars.
Taking a
and
short
zipping
ride
away.
and,
Yep.
okay, that sounds safer than a bunch of people walking down the road.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Is there an actual place where you can legally go into Fields Farm now? Like where you can legally enter?
From,
I don't know.
Okay, so
from
there's your-
Amherst Road.
can you legally enter there? There's a place where you can go right on conservation or town property, and you're not going on any private
The
property?
most popular entrance used to be that one through, I think, the one through private property.
It's private
which is the
property.
one that, my guess is it probably is one further down, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay,
There, I'm like almost positive that it is. At the southern end of Fields Farm on Amherst
Yeah,
Road,
it's
there
gotta
is
be another one down there.
a spot where you don't cross over it. You just go straight from the road to conservation land.
is it an actual trail though, or are you just kind of bushwhacking through?
I don't know. I haven't been there myself. I think the trail goes right there. Maybe by now, I'm sure there's a natural trail that's been set up if there wasn't already a trail. But
I feel a field trip coming on for the spring.
Yes,
days.
I think a site walk is
It's a really good idea.
I think a site walk in the spring would be,
Yeah,
or the winter, but a site walk. And this may not be relevant to this, but I noticed, I look at the property sales that are listed in real estate every day, and the piece of property at, I think it's 271 Amherst Road, changed hands. And that must be, it has to be a property very close to the Sauhegan River. So I'll be interested in looking at a map of Fields Farm, and I need to look at the tax map and see the exact location of that, because I don't know if that will be a landowner we will later be getting to know. But separate, that's another issue for another day.
Well, the next agenda item we had was another Horse
Excuse
Hill
me.
item.
Yeah, it's fine.
Mm.
Would you, can I just, before you,
Yeah.
were you looking for approval tonight on the sign?
Is it okay for us to do it? And I know that Mark will not be working on it for at least the next month. I think he's out of town.
To put the signs up or to look into?
To put the signs up.
Yeah,
He has
so
not,
do you
they're-
wanna
they don't
Do we
exist
want a
yet.
motion? Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Okay, did we agree? I just wanted to start, did we agreed? You want to, or you want to take?
There's
a-
no harm in doing a
Yeah,
motion.
just do, I'll make a motion for Horse Hill Subcommittee to put 2 signs, one at Horse Hill, one at the trail entrance to Fields Farm, indicating parking at Horse Hill.
Motion by Mike Boisvert,
second.
second by Gina. Any other discussion, any further discussion?
Do we need money for these?
These would be these would be provided by
Okay.
the subcommittee.
All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
On behalf of the subcommittee, thank you.
That would, could get added to the trail sign. Lumber to
I'm going to keep
possibly.
Mike in the loop of any discussion on signs. Mark, excuse me, in the loop.
We appreciate his willingness to do that. Hopefully we'll keep cars off Amherst Road.
So,
Next item is also a Horse Hill item. It's a request to allow the New England Mountain Bike Association to groom property trails during snow covered next season on a volunteer basis.
again, this is something I don't know how it was done back when there was a closer working relationship between the commission and NEMBA, but the NEMBA group, Southern New Hampshire chapter, would like to provide grooming with a snow dog, they call it. It's like a single track groomer to some of the trails in Horse Hill. And this is not only for the benefit of bikes, it would benefit anybody else who uses it. And I expect that most of the work would be done down at the Watonic Bowman end of the property, but they could do it off of Amherst Road on the loop if possible. So they have volunteered to do this with their equipment. The town does have an insurance certificate for them, we know from their earlier work. So the subcommittee would love to take advantage of this, and we'd like to let the commission know. I don't know if a motion is in order, but we'd very much like to take advantage of this, and we look forward to the sense of the commission on that.
I think we've done this pretty regularly in the past, and I think it's very important we do it, approach it this way, because we are, by allowing them to use this grooming equipment, we're kind of granting them the exception, you know, to the established, you know, to the Chapter 111 rules. What we've done in the past, usually if there's not been an objection here, I've usually let Paul know that we grant to, and then if the town council wants us to go before them and talk about why this is important or why it's a good idea, you know, I assume you would tell us if they want us to do that.
You want me to bring it to Paul, or you bring it in?
I've always emailed Paul, and he generally says, okay, I'll let Merrimack PD know.
And
And it makes it a lot more usable. It's not self-serving by any means. It makes it not only more usable, the trails for people mountain biking, but also cross-country skiers, snowshoers. I mean, the feedback is always, I'm not aware of anyone saying, what happened? Why'd you destroy these trails by grooming them? It's a win-win-win generally.
yeah, we had one of the former chairs, who was chair for a really long time, Newt, used to do that himself. He had a snowmobile, but he would go and do it himself. So I assume what you mentioned, I don't know what it is.
It's
is the
something
same
towed
thing. It's
behind,
like a snowmobile,
yeah.
or they're on a snowmobile, so they're not
That's right.
taking in, you know, four-wheelers or something. It's
No,
allowed.
the
so.
idea is not to tear up the trails.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So he did that for years. And it was appreciated. So that's great.
Yeah, we appreciate them doing that. I'll send an email to Paul, and Andy will let us know if anything.
Thank you.
Is this something that we want to do every year, or is this something that we kind of want to?
I think we probably want to talk about it every year that's
Okay.
going to happen, because
And-
otherwise we'll never remember to
I don't
Okay.
think
loop
this is,
everybody in.
I don't think this is restricted to Horse Hill either. I've seen them do it at Greater Woods.
Mm.
Yeah.
I leave that to the Greater Woods Subcommittee.
Trail signs. Mike sent out a few emails on trail signs, and
Yeah. Yeah, I sent an email to the subcommittees and the reps, the Conservation Commission reps, about, for interest in making trail signs. So that was the opportunity. I know Horse Hill expressed interest in a dozen signs or so.
Very modest.
So, I mean, now's the time to let me know. Scott does a wonderful job. You can see the picture. And I know the ones that are in Greater Woods have made a big difference. So, like, if you guys need a couple down at Scalar, of course, Horse Hill, you already make your list and, show me what you want on there and where the arrows are. And Scott will, he'll work on them when he can. And this will take several weeks anyway. And maybe if we get a number of signs, and then maybe next meeting, we can get a vote on funding for the cedar.
is it premature to do that now?
Yeah, I don't know how many signs we're gonna have,
Yeah.
so I don't know how much cedar to get.
Mm-hmm.
So next
Get
next
your
time.
orders in now.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll get your orders.
Please
in.
get your orders now. Well, thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
So- the next item is the annual seedling purchase in preparation for the 22nd annual seedling giveaway, which will be May 13th of 2023. So a lot of this is about timing. It's the New Hampshire Nursery, they do a wonderful job, and they're not the well-kept secret that they used to be. The catalog, I called them all last week. I really wanted to get the catalog so I could bring it, get it in the packets and have it. The catalog went out in the mail today. So there is no electronic version of the catalog. We've pretty much, I think Gina can correct me if I'm wrong, it's pretty consistently been $450 that we've spent every year. there was two ways we can go with this. We could authorize representatives to spend an amount. I would say we probably should make it 500. It's been 450 for a few years now. And we won't know the pricing until it comes out. We could authorize representatives, say Cindy and Gina Engage, to make that, not to discount anyone else's passion for exactly what seedlings we select, but generally the most enthusiasm has been from that group. I'd be happy authorizing those three to select the purchase, but what we want to do is as soon as we receive that, we want to place that order, because it's been slim pickings. A lot of the ones we've chosen, and we've still had wonderful seedlings, but we want to pounce on that as soon as it's made available for ordering and place that order, because it is a first come, first served thing.
I think it's a great idea to authorize people to do that.
Because we don't meet again till January 9th, and I don't think we want to, I could be wrong. Maybe seedlings have fallen out of favor, but I don't think we want to risk it and wait that long.
I will make a motion to authorize 3 members of the commission, we'd like to name them Gina, Cindy, Gage, to order seedlings in an amount not to exceed $500 out of Fund
53.
53.
Second.
Motion by Ellen, second by Eric. And the only other piece of discussion I'll offer up is the three of you do keep meticulous records of not only what we ordered, but what we ordered the year before, what were the high demand items. I mean, so this isn't it's not arbitrary, the process that's followed to go that
And
we
the seedling giveaway will be much better publicized this year because we're going to grab that project.
And we'll take pictures too.
Yeah,
take pictures. I have nothing to put had nothing to put in the town council presentation about the seedling giveaway. With all the, I think there was 6 of us there, and no one took a picture. Disappointing, but
For years, no one's taken pictures. We're just too busy.
we will blaze new trails in publicity and
that would be great.
documentation.
It's all about marketing. Anyone want to discuss further? Anyone feel like there's a seedling that absolutely must be in the mix? No. So I guess we trust you exclusively. All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
That's a nice thing about having 3 of you. It would be a good variety.
It's a break. We spent 3 meetings 2 years ago narrowing down our seedling list. The last item under new business, and we dealt with one of these tonight, but it's just these expedited wetlands permits, and I really was reluctant to put too much into the packet because everything we add, there was already a lot of pages in the read ahead packet. So one thing I didn't put in was a presentation that had been prepared for this year's NHACC. A person from the Bow, New Hampshire Conservation Commission put this together. It was pretty informative. Did you go to this?
I did, and she didn't have the slides ready, so I couldn't. bring
Oh,
them up. I was
okay.
Very happy when this came. out.
Well-
Anyone who wants a copy of this presentation, let me know. and I can-
Yeah, if you want it, we can send it to you. I think we can hit some of the highlights. So basically, there are, and it's a streamlined process, but these are for projects, to be eligible to be this sort of project and get this kind of fast tracked review. You have to have the backing of New Hampshire DES. So there's only certain projects that fit in this. A lot of times they're municipally or state coordinated projects, or they're replacements of existing infrastructure that impacts the wetlands. There are some pretty unique timing, like the one we had today. The due date is today because it was received by town hall. What was 12 days, right? Is it 12 days? Or is it
There are
14
different
days?
deadlines for everything, so.
So one of the challenges, and somewhere here I had the 5 different types. And everyone should have gotten in the packet. What I did include was something that Stephanie put together. And this is probably the most constructive document, but she outlines some of the timing requirements here. Oh, there are the different types. So there's more than 5. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 different types. The one we most often see is that first one, the standard wetlands dredge and fill permit. We have seen a couple expedited minimum permits. I think we saw one that was for Natticook Lake a few months ago. We do have an obligation to review these. There's, you know, our charter actually outlines that not only that will, in terms of wetland reviews, that we'll do two. We'll do ones that the planning board or the town council asks us to do, and we will do all these NHDES reviews also. A lot of times, unlike the planning board ones, it really, a lot of times we dig into those and there are a lot more questions that be asked. I think on the surface, these are usually a lot more straightforward. But the challenge is meeting that timeline. So one of the recommendations that was put together was that the commission identify, and it can be any of us, but identify one person. What we can't have is a meeting offline to decide whether or not we're going to convene a special meeting to meet this deadline. And what we also don't want to do is, it's called an intervention, but we don't want to send a letter to the DES, which is essentially an intervention, which puts this thing into a 40-day extension. We don't want to do that if it's not warranted. So what a lot of conservation commissions have done is identify a person or persons that reviewed the permit as soon as they're reviewed by town hall, and they decide for the commission whether or not this justifies a special meeting, whether we need to convene a special meeting to discuss it or ask for that 40-day extension and deal with it at our next regularly scheduled Conservation Commission meeting. Can I explain that in a way that makes sense? So I think we talked about doing this with Tim probably 2 years ago, but we weren't seeing any of these, so we really never acted on it. Who would like to review these? Is that something we'd like to do?
I'm just wondering if this was in your wheelhouse when you were working before, Eric. Is this something that you went to school for before?
Not particularly
Okay.
wetlands. I might have some materials related to it, but I haven't worked on wetland protection or anything like that since probably 6 years, maybe.
Okay. Just checking.
What is our feeling just about having a representative review these and make that decision? Is that something we'd like to do, or would we like to try to schedule a special meeting every time one of these comes along? It wouldn't have to be all of us. It could be a special meeting with simply a quorum.
Well, frankly, if you name someone and something goes wrong, you can always rescind. No, seriously,
Yeah.
you can rescind it.
We've never really had a strenuous objection to anything that we've ever seen on one of these. I mean, I don't want to jinx us, but
Well, it's interesting because when I was looking at the slides at the summary, I said, okay, check the DES wetlands permit query weekly for new applications until process is established. And that made me think, are there really that many floating around? And you tell me there's 5? So,
there's actually 7. I
okay, so
misspoke.
ComDev must be looking at that.
Well,
Or
we don't
would this
receive a
be-
lot of them.
Would this be someone from the commission who would sort of be a second set of
It would
eyes?
have to be someone from the commission who would have to decide what, and the grounds to really to have that intervention discussion, or intervention was in the word. Do you remember what?
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
file to intervene.
The grounds to do that are very narrow. One, and they kind of outline that, some of the grounds on which we would have that sort of objection are the resources, or all the important resources identified in the site plan. And an example of this might be if we were presented one, and a resource would be one of our wellheads. Obviously, we're the MVD wellheads. We're interested in protecting those. If one wasn't represented on a site plan and we caught that, that would be something we would definitely want to intervene at that point and say, no, we need to push this into a 40-day extension so we can make sure that that's captured here and the right mitigation strategies are become part of the plan. Another one would be the size. You know, if we perceived the impact not to match what was in the narrative of that DES summary, then that would be something. You know, if we believed a wetland wasn't properly delineated, that would be something. Or the project type. And I think an example of this might be where, you know, it talked about that protected species. I've already forgotten the name of it again, something violet. You know, like, yeah, if it
Birdfoot.
and actually for the two impacted areas, it told us in that site plan where those plants were going to be relocated to. If we knew something like there was another project proposed for that site that would further disrupt them, that would be something we would want to, you know, that we might know that New Hampshire DES might not know, and that would be the sort of thing that we would want to intervene and ask for that additional 40 days. But other than that, those are really the only times where we would elevate those kinds of concerns.
Anyone that we would name to handle something like this would also be free to do a site walk, but if a quorum of the committee did it, it would be a meeting that would have to be noticed and so forth. But if the commission authorized a person to stay on top of these permits, that person could do a walk and make sure that what is in writing corresponds to that. Not required, but they could do it. We just couldn't, if 4 or more are gathered for that, it's a meeting.
And I think you have to be very careful with site walks, only because when you're there, it's something that probably should never happen without the entire commission knowing it's happening. Yeah, we would want to, you would have to do a special meeting, I think, before a site walk. That would be something we would decide at a special meeting, say, we don't feel like the wetland delineation was appropriate. Let's schedule a site walk and go look at it. But then that's got to be coordinated with landowners, the town. It did outline that as something that if we felt like there was a problem with either the resource, the size of the impact, or the project type, that would be a likely next step.
Ellen, if I could get a copy of that, that would be great. Yeah.
You know, I'm going to ask Stephanie if she will send this to everybody in
Perfect.
electronic form.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know enough about it, quite honestly, at this point to volunteer to single-handedly take this on, but I'm willing to learn more about it.
Likewise.
Yeah, I'm willing to be the representative, I think.
You would?
Yeah.
So if I'm reading this correctly on the different types of applications, the only two applications of the types that involve the Conservation Commission are the standard wetlands dredge and fill permits and the expedited minimum permit. All the other permit types, there's no statutory requirement for the Conservation Commission to be involved, I believe. And of those two, the expedited minimum impact, they have to get the Conservation Commission's, we have to sign the permit application before they submit, because we're waiving our right to intervene.
Right.
And so we've got to sign that before it even goes. So there's no deadline there before it's ever going to get submitted. We're signed. So we're really only talking about the standard wetland dredge permit. All the other ones really wouldn't fall into this category.
No, that's a great point. I think we did see one of the expedited ones. The Natticook Lake was one.
Yeah. But
And there, the risk is if we don't meet and sign that, or if we don't, I don't know if we can sign that without a meeting. If we don't sign the 4 copies of that, we delay the project.
we do delay the project,
become-
but they cannot submit that application until they get our signature.
Okay. So that may be one that we always have to meet. That usually would have someone that would come present to us. The expedited permits, there may not be a way to do that without a meeting.
Right.
Eric seems well suited to be the person to be our representative and look at these things when they come. He's willing to do that. Stephanie will call me whenever we get one of these, just to let me know it's there. I mean, I could quickly reach out to you and let you know and make sure you have it. And
Thank you, Eric.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah,
And
thank
in the
you.
meantime, Jean and I have homework to do. Over time, we will try to catch up and learn about this. And
And-
thank you very much for taking
Yeah,
the lead.
and we can we'll send this out to the entire
Yep. That'll go in.
commission. I
request
just,
to Stephanie.
I was reluctant to do that. Stephanie asked me, and I was reluctant to do it. Just, I hate to send out too much read ahead stuff for a meeting. It just made more sense to describe, discuss it and send it out as a separate attachment. So we can do that. But I think Stephanie's document is fantastic, and it essentially, I think, recommended we do exactly this. Find someone that feels like they're able to review these and make recommendation on them. Gets us to other business. Ellen, you want to talk about this one?
Yes, at a previous meeting, I think this was months ago, the commission had asked DPW if they could grade the road off Old Kings Highway leading down to the parking lot. And, a few weeks ago, in an autumn day, I went to replenish the map box and had my little car with lousy tires, and the slippery leaves were such that I had an entertaining time getting up the hill. And Mark said, did they ever regrade that, when we were at our subcommittee meeting? And we realized, no, the town never did. So at some point in the future, would the town please see to grading that road? I understand that would be affected by weather and so forth, but please let them know the commission's still got that in mind.
You do that, Ellen? I've left myself a note here. Is that some one that they've done every year generally?
The people I've spoken to say that has been
Yeah,
done
it's
in the
been- okay.
past. I haven't been aware of the project.
Seems straightforward enough.
Thank you.
Approval of the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the draft minutes of the November 28th, 2022 Conservation Commission meeting with the following corrections.
Motion by Ellen,
Second?
second by Mike. All right, what do you have?
Just had a couple of things. Okay, page 2, line 46, get the apostrophe out of its. And page 4, line 131, remove T. It's a signalized intersection, but not a T intersection. That's all I've got.
I found a few. Page 2. On line 47, it says for convenience store added onto the, should it be the station attendant space?
Yes.
Okay, so
Thank you.
take the S off of stations.
Thank you.
All right. Also page 2, line 63 going into 64, it says a Mr. should be, get rid of A, should be Mr. Rucker stated.
Oh, thank you. And Rucker is misspelled too. Thank you.
Right. Okay, let's see. On line 68, also page 2, Mr. Rucker would be presenting to the planning board.
Thank you.
On page 2, line 75, that one kind of read kind of strange. It said stormwater will be captured, treated, and detained treated through flow-through system. I think it just needs to be captured, treated, and detained. Or I don't know. I wasn't here, so I'm not exactly sure what was said there,
I
but
would need to go back to.
yeah,
to the
it looked
tape.
kind of awkward to me. Also on page 2, line 77, and is meant to be. I'll leave that one alone because that's just being nitpicky there. All right, on page 4, line 140. What's a forebase? F-O-R-E base? Sediment forebase? Is that a real thing?
140.
Yeah, line 140. It says deep.
Sediment forebays.
That's right? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. On line 148, same page, especially with the group, it should be of soils. Wait a minute.
I
It
think
says
it's
with
group A soils.
Okay.
Make that a capital perhaps. Thank
Okay.
you.
Also page 4, line 163, capitalize the D in duck and the B in boxes because it's a company name.
I'm sorry, say that again, 160?
On line 163,
Thank you.
capitalize the D and the B in duck boxes. And last one I have, page 5, 188, line 188 should be nest boxes, not next boxes. Yeah, that's what I got.
Anyone else? No. All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Motion carries 7-0. So our next meeting, the new schedule, I don't know if it was before, but the new schedule is on our website. So the next meeting is January 9th. And then after that, January 23rd. I think that was it. Anyone like to make a final motion?
Just about
Yeah.
the calendar, so it was probably on my list months ago to add this to our website, and I didn't do it, so I will do that, but if the subcommittees could send me a list of their 2023 meetings, it's a lot easier to upload a file that includes all of the dates at one time, so that would be helpful, if they know what their 2023 meeting schedule
Or
is.
they'll just schedule and I'll send that to you.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by Gina, second by Cindy. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
7:27.
27. Well, thank you all.